Come on. Uh, 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 uh. Hold on. I ain't done. Uh, 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 uh. Urban Therapy with Son 752. And this is the Urban Therapy with Son show today on this Sunday, this glorious Sunday, the seventh day, the day when he rested. We are talking about the way that you learn to survive growing up, the way you learn to survive growing up. This is kind of piggybacking on what we were talking about yesterday when we were talking about how when you were raised when you were raised with certain values, certain morals, certain, that when you were raised to have a certain set of beliefs and to do certain things in order to make it or break it, it's hard to understand when somebody has been raised with a different set of values and y'all trying to y'all trying to compare notes and communicate well and get along with each other. So remember yesterday on the show when I was talking about how if you were raised to lie, cheat, and steal, and I don't know about y'all, but I have known families who taught their children to lie, cheat, and steal. Like if you see something that you want and nobody is around, nobody sees you, you go ahead and take it, conceal it, and get away. And if it ever comes up that you took it or whatever, you deny it. Whenever you get in trouble, I know families who have been taught to lie and to try to get out of trouble in any way that it takes in order to get out of trouble. Even if you have to lie, even if you have to threaten people, even if you have to beat people up, even if you have to threaten or actually eliminate people who will tell on you. I've known families who have taught their children to survive with those types of values. It sounds very savage like, and it sounds a little crazy to people who haven't raised their children like that, but there are plenty of families who have raised their children to do that. I mean, when you think about it, it really shouldn't be all of that surprising when you take into consideration how you probably have known families where most of the men in the families have gone to jail. So if you know a family where most of the brothers have gone to jail, maybe the fathers have gone to jail, the uncles have gone to jail, like they have a history and a pattern of incarceration that filters through the family. I don't think it's hard to deny that they have not been taught how to avoid incarceration. They haven't been taught how to avoid jail. More than likely, they have been taught how to make it in jail, how to survive in jail, how going to jail is just a rite of passage. It's something that happens when you're out here, exercising your survival technique. So that's what we're going to talk about today on the Urban Therapy with Sun show. I'm so glad to be here. What's going on, y'all? Stacy White, what's going on? And Ronnie, she's bad. She's bad. I know she's bad. Veronica Freeman in the house. Haven't seen you around these parts in a while, but it's real good to see you. What up? What up? All right. So that's how it's going down on the Urban Therapy with Sun show. The way you learn to survive growing up, what you know. Now, I want to take a little bit of time to talk about you personally. You personally. Have you ever really thought about what you have been taught and how you have been taught to survive? What did your parents show you, teach you, guide you through, tutor you through, counsel you through in your younger years that showed you what you need to do in order to stay alive as long as possible? Out in the wild, if you watch nature the way I do, or if you are in tune with nature the way I try to be, you watch how animals teach their young to survive. Cats, dogs, mammals, birds, uh, the reptiles. I don't know about reptiles. I don't know how other animals, other than birds and other than mammals, I don't know how they teach their young to survive. But we know that mammals teach their children to survive. They show them how to hunt, how to, like with birds, they show them how to build a nest. They even teach them how to fly. And every animal must teach their young how to avoid predators. Like, I'm a bird. We don't go around cats. We don't go around foxes. We don't do that because they are not our friends naturally. And the ecosystem of the world, we are not in tune with each other. In captivity, where humans are involved, yeah, you can get us to be together. But out in the wild, it's never going to happen. We are food for them. Just like smaller birds or like worms and things like that. Worms and insects may be our food. So they teach their children how to do that. They teach them how to keep warm in the wintertime, how to keep cool in the warmer months. But they teach them how to survive for as long as nature will provide protection for them. So it's not that different when we start looking at the way human beings raise their children. We teach our children how to read, how to write, how to count, how to stay out of trouble, how to avoid trouble. We normally teach our children to do that, how to stay away from bad company, how to deal with the police, how to not have any contact with police of a negative nature. We teach our children how to get a job or that we have to work. Not all of us are taught how to work or that working is important. I know families that have a cyclical cycle. Well, not a cyclical cycle. I'm saying the same thing. A cyclical pattern of welfare, being a welfare recipient, sort of like a generational curse. Never learning to work, never learning to value putting in a hard day's work, or even developing your own business, building your own business so you can be financially secure. Not everybody is taught that. But even if you aren't taught to have your own business, just being taught to get your ass up and go to work and work for 8 hours or more and come home and take care of your family and yourself, that's good enough. But not every family is taught that. You know, some families are taught to be dependent or to milk others for money. I've known women who have taught their daughters, your way of being financially secure is through a man, not by marrying him though, by giving up some ass. If he likes you, you let him kiss him. I mean, you let him kiss you. You let him feel on you. You let him take you to bed, and he'll give you all the money that you need. And you keep fostering that. So some might say that some women have taught their daughters how to be prostitutes. I don't know if you would put it like that in every situation, but they have taught them to be dependent. Some women have taught their daughters nowadays to be independent. You don't need no man. Get your own. Get your own house. Get your own car. Take care of your own kids. I don't know. I don't think one is any better than the other, because it takes a man and a woman to create another man and a woman. So why would you think that you can totally eliminate one or the other and still be okay? But that's a whole nother story. But we can talk about that a little bit more as we talk about the way that you learn to survive, your survival mode, your survival techniques, how to make money. We all have an uncle or grandfather or something that made a bunch of money, knew how to save money, make money, put it away and never be broke. We all got an uncle or grandfather or somebody or auntie that got the big car. Speaking of big car, I've known families where nobody drove. Nobody in the family drove. Nobody had a car. I saw an interview with DMX, the late, great DMX. And he was talking about how nobody in his family had a car. So when he grew up, he bought a bunch of cars. Nobody ever had a car. If they needed to go to the laundromat, they had to get a ride. If they needed to go to the store, they had to get a ride. If they needed to go to the Home Depot or something like that, whatever, for recreational activities or whatever, nobody had a car. I mean, can you imagine being in a family where nobody drives? Nobody? What do you mean nobody has a car? Nobody? Yeah, well, that's what he said. And his wouldn't be the first example that I've ever known or heard of where that was the case. Nobody had a car. All right, so that's what we're talking about today on the Urban Therapy with Son show. So let's get it popping. Urban Therapy with Son 752 with this, the Urban Therapy with Son show. We do this each and every Sunday afternoon from 1 p.m. till around 2:30-ish. And the reason that we say 2:30-ish is because sometimes it gets so heated that we just have to do a little OT on a Sunday. And it is Sunday. This is the day where adults come out and play with other adults. We laugh, we cry, we argue, fuss and fight, go back and forth with each other, bust it up all crazy. We take an introspective look into our own personality to see the way that the universe projects us into this thing called the world and try to figure out this thing called life. I'm your host, Son 752, aka Omar with the and if you can't say Omar with the well, then you just say Omar with the R. This is the Urban Therapy with Son show, and I want to welcome all of y'all. Please make sure that you hit the like button. Make sure that you share the show. Make sure that you subscribe to the channel. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, we are talking about the way that you learn to survive growing up, the way that you learn to survive growing up. It's not always just your family who teaches you how to survive. You meet people along the way who may teach you how to survive, who you may bear witness to, and observe their survival techniques. Friends, other outside family members, extended family members, people you go to school with, are in clubs and organizations with, people that you meet through other people. They will show you that there's a different way to make it out here than the way that you've been making it. So you may see something that you think suits you better to learn how to survive out here. So that's what we're talking about today. Y'all. What we talking about? All right, Stacy White says, both of my parents taught me how not to get caught up because some men lie. I have a whole nother wife on the other side. Okay. Oh. Well, all right. I don't know if that's your actual survive technique. Somebody having a wife on the side, I guess if you messing with a married man, potentially it could be bad for your health, but that's a little different than what I'm talking about. But at the same time, you do have to protect your heart and you do have to protect your mental health and your feelings. So we can incorporate that into the conversation too. Veronica Freeman says, my grandmother never drove, had friends or hacks drive her everywhere. A lot of people have that situation with some family members, but all family members, like not an uncle, I know plenty of people who don't drive. I even have a brother who does not drive. He's the only brother out of all of us who doesn't drive, but he don't drive. And we be looking like we don't live in New York. That's kind of weird. And I've had friends who didn't drive. I've had friends who did not drive, male friends. And that's I ain't gonna front. That's a weird thing to me because boys grow up, race cars and Hot Wheels, Matchbox, racing car sets. Like we get into cars, trucks and shit, Tonka trucks. What man doesn't want to drive? I'll tell you what kind of man that doesn't want to drive. A man who lacks confidence and a man who's scared to drive. Scared to get behind the wheel. I mean, people can get mad at me for saying that all they want, but to me, it's an actual fact. It ain't natural for a man to not want to get behind the wheel, whether he can drive well or not. But I'm just saying. Stacey White says, I'm really glad that I have my own. Well, everybody should have their own, but I don't think everybody should think that they have to do it all by themselves. I don't think that that's a good thing. But, you know, in the society that we live in these days, we might be looking at just that, you know, thinking that the only way we're ever going to have anything is if we get it ourselves, by ourselves. Well, you can't live your life in a vacuum, but that doesn't become a reality to you until it absolutely has to. For some people. Stacey says, I can shop for myself and don't have to depend on nobody to get my food for myself. That's cool. Veronica says, I know lots of men who drive without a license, but they always drove. So I hate shit. That would be me. I didn't care. I don't give a shit whether I have a license. I don't care if it's suspended. I'm driving. I'm taking that shot. I'll be careful. Stop at all the lights. Do the speed limit. Whatever. But I'm driving. And I tell you what, I've owned cars when my license wasn't straight, and I drove other people's cars when my license wasn't straight, and with their knowledge that I didn't have a license. It be like that. You know, it's hard for a black man to keep a license out here. It ain't as easy as people think it is. Well, I had DUI, so that was. But other men might be in arrears with their child support and things like that. They take your license. It's one of the first things, and one of the first ways is one of the first things that they do, is one of the first ways that they are able to get you to cough up some money. And don't get me wrong, I believe that every man should financially provide for his children and also be there for his children. So let's not get into that. But speaking of that, that's a good area, because when we're talking about the way that you learn to survive growing up, if somebody in your family doesn't teach you self-control or good sexual health, so nobody told you that you should use condoms or whatever, maybe they just casually say, oh, you better wrap it up. And this is after you done already got 2 girls pregnant as a teenager. So here you are 17 years old and already got 2 kids. And they talking about something, you better start wrapping it up, or you need to wrap it up. No, you need to do more than just tell somebody to wrap it up, because we're talking about more than just creating children that you may or may not take care of. That your life could depend on it. We grew up in the 80s. We grew up in the 80s and 90s, where your life could directly depend on whether you use condoms or not. And also, you know, being careful of the company that you keep. So yeah, and taking care of your children. Now, you ain't gonna tell me that every male out here is raised to take care of their children, because we see what's going on out here. All of these fatherless children, all of these children estranged from their father, all of these fathers estranged from their children, not even trying to make up the time. So you ain't gonna tell me with that going on, then that's not a definitive survival technique that is being taught in the black family. I don't care about nobody else, no other family of any other culture, any other race, any other ethnic background. In our culture and our race, with our people, we are not teaching our young men to take care of their children. First of all, to be responsible sexually, number one, and to make sure that if you fail in your responsibility to sexually protect yourself, that you take care of your children. So the same way that somebody raised you, you raise your your children, your babies. Now, you may have been raised without a father. If at some time it doesn't click in that that's not a good thing, it's probably because it hasn't been taught to you. Instead of it being explained to you that your father should be there for you and that there are reasons that that's not happening, but it's not an example that you should follow. Instead of doing that, maybe you were raised by a parent that just told you, you don't need no father. You got your mother and I got your back and everything is going to be okay. Well, that's a survival technique and it may sound empowering, but it's not good. It's not good. It's not good. If it takes if it takes two people to make a child, then two people should raise a child. No exceptions, no excuses. If both parents are in this world and they are walking, living, breathing, working, doing whatever it is that they do, there's no reason that the child should ever be raised by just a single mother. No reason. No reason. No reason. Except for the fact that that hasn't been taught to us. It hasn't been beaten into us. It hasn't been instilled into us. It hasn't been explained that that's the real rite of passage. That's the real rite of passage. Not just getting by, but doing better. We're talking about survival techniques. See, all of these things have something to do with survival. Don't take my usage of the word survival to just mean staying alive. Living and surviving are different. You know, but in order to live, you have to survive. You can live any way that you want to. You can live good, you can live well, you can live bad, you can live terrible. But you have to survive in order to do that. So you don't want to just be out here existing. People who are sick and dying, and peace to them, blessings be upon them, they are just existing, wasting away, making room for nature to bring along the next generation of people, because no one lives forever. Quality of life is what we're talking about when we talk about the way that we've learned to survive. I'm talking about quality of life. Quality of life, because that's what real living is all about. But you got to survive in order to be able to do it. Stacy White says, have you ever had to depend on somebody? Your icebox was empty. God made a way for your icebox to get full. I have always been in a position where people will help me out. But I ain't never had no woman pay my bills. I've been down before. But God never let me be down to the point where I had to lean on a woman in order to take care of me, because I'll be goddamn. I will be goddamn if I ever accept that for myself. No way. I might be a pimp in mentality, but I'll be goddamn if I be one in practice. No way. Ain't no chick out here gonna be coming around, gonna be walking around here, running around here talking about, yeah, I took care of O. You know, he ain't had shit. I made that nigga. No, you didn't. I had been made. I wasn't made by you. No disrespect, ma. You know what I mean? Thanks for any help that you gave me. But nah, you ain't take care of me. I ain't never lived in a woman's house or apartment or nothing. I ain't never not had my own place. Ever, 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 ever. I moved out of my parents' house when I was 18. I ain't never looked back. And I only moved out because, well, it was my first year of college. And even though I was commuting to college, I had my own place. I had my own place. I only had to go back home for a month or 6 weeks. I believe it was like 6 weeks. I had to go back to my mom's crib because I had a fire at my house. And while I got my house together, I stayed at home with my mom. And I swear to God, it was the most, I wouldn't say it was demoralizing because me and my mom have always gotten along and she's always been very, very supportive of me and been a big cheerleader for me. So it wasn't like that. I was never a failure. I was still working. I was still making money. You know, we was good. That's when my stepdad was alive too. Peace to him. So, but no. That has never happened, and I don't give a fuck what nobody say. It never will happen. Shoot, and because it hasn't happened, I've had some problems with some women. Well, why don't you just let me? And what? No. Give me the fishing pole. Don't give me the fish. I'm good. Show me how to win. I don't need you to win for me. Okay. Anyway. Rocket said, take the license, the independence. Good point. Mm-hmm. Stacy says, I went backwards when it comes to my sobriety to keep from cussing somebody out that had my stuff. Okay. So you had to take a drink in order to do that. Fuck it. All right, Stacy also says, my mother always told me not to get mad at nobody, not to get mad at nobody else's stuff. However, she never told me how not to get angry when somebody has my stuff. Okay. All right. Well, let's take it to the basics. When we are very young, our parents, if they're decent parents, and if they know how to do it themselves, they teach us the value of reading, of writing, doing well in school. Because as much as people try to downplay the value of school, whether you're talking about kindergarten through or preschool through 12th grade, or whether you're talking about college, one thing that seems to be missed in all of this, college is a scam talk. College is a scam talk. You know what's being missed in that argument? The fact that college teaches you discipline. It teaches you discipline just like the military does. You have to meet those deadlines when it comes to assignments, papers, all internships, all that kind of stuff. You learn to learn in college. And one of the things that you learn in college is discipline. Doing things in a timely manner. Learning things in a timely manner. Finding out the things that you need to find out. Gathering information in a timely manner. That's one thing that's being missed. And nobody wants to address that, or nobody seems to address that in the college is a scam argument. All they talk about is how much money you don't make and how hard it is to pay back your loans. And if that's your chief concern when it comes to college, then you really don't need to go. But this comes back to the whole survival technique thing, because maybe your parents raised you to know that you were going to college right after high school. So it's not an option for you. Now, whether you finish college or not, that's on you, but you going. But that's a survival technique, because in your parents' minds, they feel Like, you need to go to college because that will give you the best chance to be able to get the best job or be in the best mental position to be able to learn to make it out here, to get comfortable, to do well for yourself. Now, if your parents don't value education, or if your parents never really went to school themselves, or they didn't graduate high school, let's say you come from a family that has the generational curse of never graduating high school. I've known families where nobody graduated high school. Everybody went to high school, nobody finished. Everybody dropped out. Like Fantasia Barrino, she was talking about how, she had to try to break that generational curse. You know how everybody was dissing Fantasia because they were saying that she didn't know how to read. And that wasn't true. It wasn't that she didn't know how to read. She said she didn't know how to read very well because school wasn't something that was valued in her family. Nobody graduated high school, so, and when you really think about it, do you know how hard life gets when you don't have a high school diploma? People concentrate on just the diploma part. But the reason why getting a high school diploma is important is because of the same reason that I was talking about when it comes to college, the discipline part. In order to graduate high school legitimately, you have to turn in assignments. You have to pass exams. You have to write papers, and you have to show up for class. These are requirements. If you don't go to school, you can't pass your classes, and which means you can't graduate. So if your parents have not gone to school, if they didn't graduate high school, it's going to be hard for them to teach you how important it is to go to school because they don't really understand. They don't understand the discipline part of it. People nowadays are really being conditioned to try to circumvent the process of how things work. They try to get around the process. We got to get from A to Z, but we ain't going to do it from getting from B to Y. We're not going to do that. We're going to find another way from A, and maybe we'll get to like M, and then maybe we'll get to like R. Or you know what? Matter of fact, we're going to get to T. We'll get to T, and then we'll somehow either stay at T because T might be good enough. T might be good enough. In your survival mode, maybe T was far enough for you to go in your process. And we're being conditioned to think that everything has to come so quick. You can't wait and go through all of these steps in order to get from A to Z. Well, how's it working out? How's it working out in your world? And I'm really just asking y'all, have your parents showed you how to survive out here? Have they given you a fair shot at survival out in this world? Or have they hindered your ability to survive or do well? Because unfortunately, it happens. It happens. So, as a male, and I'm going to concentrate on males when I talk about incarceration, because Black males are the ones who go to jail a lot. And how can you say, if you and all your brothers, your cousins, your male cousins, your uncles, and everybody goes to jail, how can you say that y'all being raised with the knowledge of how to avoid incarceration? Either you're being raised, to value like selling drugs, using drugs, stealing, or being violent, Those are all the things that get you in jail. Illegal activity. So if your family is not teaching you that illegal activity is not the way to go and it's not the way to be, then they're not showing you how to survive. They're not. They're not showing you how to survive. For the women out here, has your mom, your dad, your brothers, your sisters, have they shown you how to be a woman, how to really be how to be a real woman, how to be the type of woman that a man would want to be with? I think it's missing, honestly. We're cultivating a bunch of so-called independent women, but they ain't really independent. They all need a man. I've never seen a woman that called herself independent that didn't need a man. If you really think about it, she's doing for herself because she doesn't have another option. So was she taught how to stay with a man, how to get with a man and stay with a man, or conduct herself in a way where a man will want to be with her? And let me be clear. I know plenty of women who, even though they are not with their children's father or their exes or whatever, their exes still look out for them because they consider them to be good women. So regardless of what happened between them, they still want to hold it down for them. So they don't have to do everything on their own or by themselves. They don't have to be an island out here. Like, look, you know what I mean? I know we ain't together no more, but you know what? I'm going to still look out. So if you need me for anything, don't hesitate to call me or call on me. As a matter of fact, I know your pride is going to get in the way, so I'm going to check in on you, and I'm going to just fill in your blanks. Has your family shown you how to attract a man without having to use your body? Without having to, without having to take a man to bed, have they shown you how to attract a man and keep a man? Keep a man interested in you besides the physical part of you? Has your family shown you how to do that? Have they even made that a value system for yours? Or have they told you more like, well, if he don't give you no money, don't give him no ass. If he don't give you no money, don't give him no ass. As simple as that. I don't know if y'all watch this series that comes on Showtime called The Chi. I like this. I like the series, but it's starting to go down that same rabbit hole. It's starting to go down that same rabbit hole as I see all of these other black series go into. First of all, they pushing the gay agenda. Can't help it. The creator of the show, the writer of the show, is a lesbian. So of course, there's a bunch of trannies in here, and the gay agenda is there, and there's no way you getting around it. And they treat it like it's normal. Nobody is against nobody gay on the show. There's no anti-gay sentiment on the show. But the reason I bring up the show is because on that show, they have storylines that make you. I don't know if you've ever been to Chicago or if you know anything about the city of Chicago, but Chicago is the New York of the Midwest. So Chicago is a big ass city that sits on the lake, just like New York is a big ass city that sits on the Hudson. you know. And Chicago has 3 million people that live in the city of Chicago. 3 million people. But from that show, you would think that show was, you would think Chicago was more like a neighborhood. You would think it was more like a neighborhood, you know, but you know, when you look at when you view the black experience, through entertainment or even edutainment, sometimes false narratives are painted, and sometimes we get a picture of what we think it should be or how we think it should be, but always through the eyes of somebody who wants it to be a certain type of way. So just like on that show, when they push all of the gay narratives and all of that, just like Power, definitely like P Valley, like The Wire did. I'm trying to think of a show where they don't do it, and there's hardly any that I can think of. But nonetheless, when we take a look at the way that we have been taught, that we've been taught to survive, that we've been taught to live, you know, is very different from household to household. So the way that I've been taught to attract women, to take care of my children, or to create children, take care of them, rear them, raise them, bring them up. The way I've been taught to be active in my community, or at least be an example, an example worth following in my community. These are things, these are survival techniques that I've been taught. Everybody doesn't get taught those things. Everybody doesn't get that, you know. It doesn't mean that you haven't been taught to survive in your own way or in some good way. But like I said, if you haven't been taught that going to school is important, finishing school isn't important, finishing anything, anything. Do y'all know anybody who never finishes anything? They start a lot of things, but they hardly finish anything. You know, they get sidetracked, lose focus, get bored, claim that certain things are taking too long, but they get started on a whole lot of things, but they don't finish nothing. If you're the type of person that's used to finishing everything that you start, you know how frustrating it is trying to deal with somebody that don't finish nothing they start. They got all this unfinished business. They even got, I don't know about y'all. All right, let's see. I'm drinking this tea right here, right? I know people that'll drink it down to around here, but they're never going to finish the glass. No matter how small the glass is. I've tested some people. Like, for some reason, never finish whatever they're drinking. So whether it's a soda from the store, or a soft drink from a fast food place, or this glass of tea, container of tea, whatever you want to call it, or anything. You know, you see half-eaten sandwiches in places. You know, half a plate of food. No, some people don't finish anything, and they're not taught to finish anything. So completion is not in their repertoire. Now you ask yourself, how is anybody surviving without learning to complete anything? Stacey says, I'm not gay and I'm not bi. I'm cool with being by myself if I have to be. Yeah, well, I'm peace to you for not being gay and not being bi. I praise anybody who ain't that. Of course, there are plenty of people who don't have a problem with people who are gay or who are bi, but that's them. Veronica says the Nation of Islam is based in the Shai, the place where strong black men are supposed to be represented. Thoughts about thoughts about that. Speaking of the show Shai, yeah, well, if you watch the show Shai, you notice they don't have no Nation of Islam shit on there. You would not know. Well, let's just say they don't address those issues. Now, they address some social issues, some, but they, from the 6 seasons that I've watched, they haven't really addressed racial issues. Definitely not, you know, too many socio-political issues. However, on this episode, you know that they have a character on there who just won for councilman. He's councilman for Chicago. That ain't no small job. Oh, she said, I don't watch, but was asked, oh, to type that for you. Okay, that's cool. That's cool. Yeah. And well, whoever told you to ask about the nation, well, mention the Nation of Islam, tell them this. Well, I'm sure they listening right now, right? They're checking it out. All right, check this out. Even with the Nation of Islam, see, when it comes to our people, you know, you have to take the good and the bad. And in order to take the good and the bad, you have to recognize what's good and bad for you. Like I followed the Nation of Islam for decades. I've always been down. I'm the least down with them now as I've ever been. The Nation of Islam ain't the Nation of Islam that it used to be. They letting white people in the Nation of Islam now. They on some Scientology shit. I don't know what the Farrakhan. Yo, man, peace to Farrakhan, but come on, man. I knew at the Millions More movement, at the Millions More rally in DC in 2015, I knew the nation was done. I was like, we went from the Million Man March to this. We went from the Million Man March to this. Now we letting the LGBTQ and we white people, LGBTQ, anybody can be down. Anybody? The Nation of Islam? What? But you know why? Assimilation, integration, all of the stuff that they used to preach against. And you know why? For real. Sorry, but the minister about that cash. It's about that cash. I mean, I'm sorry, he's about that cash. Always been. Always been. He's been about that cash. But so was Elijah Muhammad. The one that wasn't about that cash was Malcolm X. And you see why they had to get rid of Malcolm X. He was really about that action. Anyway, well, one thing that the minister will show you is that money is ultra important in this world. Because I've been to many Farrakhan rallies, speeches. I've been to many of them. And I've looked at many tapes. And he's been about that cash. I've heard him say outlandish things that I used to be wondering, like, so Ain't nobody gonna check that. And this was as a young boy when I was really down. Like, this is what we doing. All right. Veronica says, well, Stacy says, I'm very spiritual. Certain things I cannot watch. Veronica says, interesting. Missing the days of Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad. Ooh. Khalid Abdul Muhammad. This is why people like Malcolm X can't be here. This is why people like Martin Luther King can't be here. This is why people like Khalid Abdul Muhammad cannot be here. They can't be here because they actually give a shit about people. And you'd be hard to find any organization that's getting money that actually gives a shit about people. And if you don't believe that, show me some proof that the Nation of Islam or any other black organization, show me where they have improved, marginally improved the condition of black people. The reason why that's going to be so hard for you is because in order for them to have improved the condition of black people, you're going to have to go outside of the Nation of Islam. You can't do it within the Nation of Islam because that ain't good enough. And they don't have enough members. They have enough people who know about the Nation of Islam, but they don't have enough people giving money. And the Nation of Islam and every other black organization believes that the way to improve the condition of black people is through money. Well, you can't buy freedom, and that's been proven. And you can't buy mental freedom, emotional freedom. You can't do it. It can't be done. But if you're raised in a family that makes you think that, you know, as long as you get this money, you'll be all right. Everything will be all right. Everything will be all right. I used to love Khalid Abdul Muhammad. Love them to death. I still go back and listen to some of his speeches, and that shit be giving me goosebumps. Why? Because I know he really gave a fuck. He went from the Nation of Islam to the Black Panther movement. He was about that action. You're like, all this talking, all this soft shit, all this talking, nah. Taking up arms ain't going to necessarily free us, but it'll keep the motherfuckers from thinking that they can just get away with giving us the okie doke. You know, brought up the Nation of Islam and got me on my shit. But when we talking about survival, the way that you learn to survive growing up. Originally, man, I was just thinking about, you know, learning about like whether your family have shown you how to get a job, how to conduct yourself with a girlfriend or a boyfriend or a spouse, how to raise your children, how to make some money, how to put away some money, how to save, how to build, how to incorporate people into your world, how to assimilate into different cultures within the culture. Because, you know, with black people, we don't have a definitive culture. We don't have that one thing that we all do. And we definitely 100% don't have that one thing that we agree on. And to me, that's the biggest problem with our people. The biggest problem with our race, and I mean American black people. I ain't talking about no Africans. I ain't talking about no Caribbean Caribbean black people. I ain't talking about none of them. I'm talking about American black people within the East Coast to the West Coast, the right coast to the left coast, from Canada to Mexico. I ain't talking about nobody else. I ain't even talking about Alaska and Hawaii or Guam or Puerto Rico. I ain't talking about none of them, because our experience is different from everybody else around the world. And why is it different from everybody around the else around the world? Because we give and contribute to every single race, culture, and ethnic background in the world, but we won't fix our own shit. We won't take the time to fix our own shit. Okay, so I'm saying all that to say this. I'm saying all that to say this because y'all have to pardon me. Okay. If we're not shown, okay, wait. I was starting to I'm almost sidetracking myself. I was trying to say that we don't have any one single issue that we can agree on and that we will actually stick together until we complete the process. We don't have anything. If you really think about it, think about black people as a whole. Think about all the black people in your family, all the black people that you know, all the black people in your neighborhood, all the black people on TV, all the black people that you've ever heard of and know and have ever known about. Name a single issue that you are 100%